Some PGA Tour careers end with applause, trophies, and farewell tours. Others, they vanish like a missed 5-footer on Sunday. Injuries, pressure, scandal, or sometimes just plain bad luck turned rising stars into cautionary tales. These aren't just golfers. They're what-ifs almost and gone too soon. Here are the ones whose careers didn't just end. They fell apart, painfully and publicly. 1. Anthony Kim. Anthony Kim was lightning in a bottle. He burst onto the scene in the late 2000s, won 3 PGA Tour events, and lit up the 2008 Ryder Cup with swagger and fire. He wasn't just good, he was exciting. People thought he might be the next American star to challenge Tiger. Then one day, he was gone. After an Achilles injury in 2012, Kim simply vanished from the game. No retirement speech, no goodbye, just silence. Rumors swirled about a massive insurance policy that would only pay if he never teed up professionally again. Whether it was true or not, he disappeared for over a decade. He resurfaced in 2024, joining Live Golf. But the mystery of his long absence and what might have been still hangs heavy. A player with elite talent and massive hype, gone before we got to see what he really could have become. 2. David Duval. At one point, David Duval wasn't just competing with Tiger Woods, he was beating him. In the late 1990s, Duval was a machine. He reached world number 1 in 1999, won 13 times on the PGA Tour, and captured the 2001 Open Championship at Royal Lytham and St. Anne's. His mirrored sunglasses, calm demeanor, and precise ball striking made him the ideal contrast and rival to Tiger's flair. But just as quickly as he rose, he disappeared. After his Open win, Duval's game started to unravel. It wasn't one issue, it was a storm of them. Swing changes disrupted his rhythm. Injuries, particularly back and wrist problems, crept in. Off the course, he faced deeply personal challenges, including the death of his brother and other family difficulties. Confidence, once his quiet superpower, vanished. By the mid-2000s, Duval went from world beater to long shot Monday qualifier. He routinely missed cuts, sometimes by wide margins. His world ranking fell so dramatically that by the end of his competitive career, he was outside the top 1,000. He eventually found success in broadcasting, earning praise for his thoughtful analysis and deep understanding of the game. But his playing career ended without the closure it deserved. For a man who once looked like the next face of golf, Duval's fall was swift, sobering, and a reminder of how fast the sport can turn. 2. Tommy Armour III. Tommy Armour III came with a legacy. His grandfather won the U.S. Open in 1927 and passed down the name and expectations. Armour III had the tools, distance, touch, and a fearless approach. He made his mark in 2003 by setting a PGA Tour scoring record with a blistering 254 at the Valero Texas Open, a record that stood for years. But that was the high point. Armour never fully capitalized on his potential. He only won twice during his career, and consistency was never his strong suit. While he had stretches of solid play, they were often overshadowed by a reputation for partying and being one of the tour's more colorful personalities. As golf became more competitive and younger stars emerged, Armour struggled to keep pace. His game didn't adapt. His swing stayed the same while the sport moved forward, and his finishes faded from memory. There was no dramatic exit, no final stand at a major. He simply slipped out of contention, replaced by a new wave of players. 3. Chip Beck. For much of the late 80s and early 90s, Chip Beck was a model of consistency. He was a fixture on Ryder Cup teams, notched 4 PGA Tour wins, and finished runner-up at the 1993 Masters. In 1991, he made history by becoming just the second player in tour history to shoot 59 in a single round, a legendary number that placed him in golf's elite record books. But then, everything fell apart. Between 1997 and 1998, Beck missed 46 consecutive cuts on the PGA Tour. Not a typo. 46. There was no injury, no suspension, just a sudden and complete loss of form. His confidence crumbled, and with it, so did his career. Fans and analysts were baffled. One day, he was competing at Augusta, the next he couldn't survive Thursday. Unlike other players who bowed out due to injury or age, Beck's disappearance was purely performance-based and painfully visible. Eventually, he left the tour and shifted to a second career in insurance. To this day, Beck remains a respected figure in the golf community, but the shadow of that 46-cut streak looms large. His legacy is both brilliant and brutal, a player who soared to unforgettable highs only to fall in a way few others ever have. 4. Robert Allenby. Robert Allenby carved out a solid PGA Tour career. With multiple wins and a reputation for mental toughness, he was one of the more reliable international players of his era. Known for grinding through tough conditions and delivering under pressure, Allenby had the kind of game built to last. But in 2015, everything changed, not because of his play, but because of a headline-grabbing controversy. After a night out in Hawaii following the Sony Open, Allenby claimed he had been kidnapped, robbed, and beaten. The story made national news almost immediately. But as details emerged, it began to unravel. Witnesses and security footage cast serious doubt on his version of events. What followed wasn't just media backlash, it was a complete derailment of his career. His play deteriorated. Missed cuts piled up, sponsors backed away. Whether the incident happened as he claimed or not became almost secondary. The damage to his public image and his focus was done. Allenby never regained his footing on tour. His name faded from leaderboards, and the once respected veteran became more known for the scandal than the golf. It was a sudden, strange, and sad way for a once promising career to end. 5. Payne Stewart. Payne Stewart was elegance and edge. He brought old-school flair and big-time swagger. And in 1999, he delivered one of the most iconic wins in the U.S. Open history, bearing a 15-footer on the 18th hole at Pinehurst. It felt like the start of a late career resurgence. Then, just months later, it ended. A private jet carrying Stewart lost cabin pressure. Everyone on board passed out. Hours later, the plane crashed in a South Dakota field. Stewart was gone at just 42. His death rocked the sport. He wasn't just a champion. He was becoming a mentor, a leader, and one of golf's most respected figures. He had more majors in him, he had more to give. Payne Stewart didn't fall off, he didn't flame out, his story didn't end. It was cut short mid-sentence. 6. Boo Weekley. Boo Weekley was golf's blue-collar showman. A southern drawl, a booming swing, and zero fear. He'd talk to the ball, ride his driver like a horse, and somehow back it all up with legit play. Fans loved him. He was a Ryder Cup hero, a personality the tour didn't know it needed until he arrived. But behind the charm and chuckles, his body was breaking down. Wrist problems, shoulder pain, back injuries, one after the other. Slowly, they stripped him of his edge. First, he played less, then barely at all. Then he vanished. There was no farewell, no send-off, just silence. Weekley tried to mount a comeback. A few starts here, an exemption there, but it never stuck. The spark was gone. The swing didn't pop the same. And without his health, Boo wasn't Boo. 7. Hunter Mahan. There was a time when Hunter Mahan was everywhere. He wasn't just a solid PGA Tour player, he was a force. With 6 tour wins, a starring role on multiple Ryder Cup teams, and one of the purest swings on tour, Mahan was pegged as one of the most consistent ball strikers of his generation. He was also marketable, appearing in national commercials and promotional campaigns. At his peak, he reached as high as number 4 in the world rankings. But after 2014, things changed. Fast. Mahan's swing went through adjustments that didn't stick, and the results started to slip. There wasn't a scandal. There wasn't a devastating injury. By 2017, Mahan had lost his PGA Tour card, something almost unthinkable just a few years prior. Despite grinding through sponsor exemptions and attempting comebacks, the consistency was gone. The confidence was gone. The version of Mahan who once looked like a U.S. golf cornerstone quietly disappeared from leaderboards. He never officially retired, but in terms of competitive relevance, the Hunter Mahan era ended without fanfare. 8. Ian Baker Finch. In 1991, Ian Baker Finch stood atop the golfing world. He had just won the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale with a near-flawless Sunday round, earning admiration from fans for his poise and touch. Many assumed the Aussie was just getting started. They were wrong. By the mid-1990s, Baker Finch's game fell apart in a way few professionals ever experience. His confidence was shattered. His once precise swing turned unpredictable and his accuracy vanished. He began missing fairways, badly. At the 1995 Open, he infamously hit his first tee shot so far offline it ended up across the road and out of bounds. The crowd gasped. After years of missed cuts, withdrawals, and failed swing changes, Baker Finch stepped away from competitive golf in 1997. His game had deteriorated to the point where playing wasn't just ineffective, it was painful to watch. He pivoted to broadcasting, where he found a second career and a loyal following for his commentary. But when it came to playing, it was a complete meltdown. From Open champion to a guy who couldn't keep the ball in bounds, Baker Finch's fall wasn't just steep, it was brutal. His collapse wasn't quiet. It was televised, analyzed, and impossible to watch without wincing. One of the most respected swings in golf simply vanished, and it never came back. 9. Tryan. Tryan's rise was unreal. At just 16, he turned pro. By 17, he made a PGA Tour cut and earned his card through Q School, something no one that young had ever done. Sponsors lined up, golf magazines couldn't stop printing his face. He was the next big thing. Some even said he'd be Tiger's rival. Then just as fast it was over. He battled illness. His swing fell apart. The pressure, the spotlight, the constant travel. It all hit harder than expected. And there was no time to breathe. Tryan wasn't just playing against pros, he was still a teenager figuring out how to be one. He started missing cuts. His confidence vanished. By his early 20s, he was off the PGA Tour completely. No wins, no comebacks, just a name people used to talk about. Tryan bounced around the mini tours, chasing the dream in silence, but the spark never returned. His fall wasn't gradual. It was instant. Once he was the future of American golf. No scandals, no injuries, just a quiet, brutal collapse. A career that ended before it ever had the chance to begin. A prodigy who never got to show us what he really had.